Today, we're diving into one of the foundational texts of ancient India, the Yajurveda. But this is way more than just a lesson on ancient scriptures. Oh no, this is a story of a major conflict, some serious divine intervention, and a fascinating split that gave us two very, very different versions of the same sacred knowledge.
So let's just get right to the big question here. Why on earth would a holy text be named black and white? I mean, it sounds more like a chess game than a Veda, right? Well, that is the exact mystery we're going to unravel, and the answer is locked inside a pretty dramatic story about a guru and his top student.
But before we can get to all that drama, we've got to cover the basics. We need to understand what the Yajurveda actually is. So let's quickly set the stage.
The name itself, Yajurveda, kind of gives it away. Yajus means a sacrificial formula, and Veda, of course, means knowledge. So it's literally the knowledge of sacrifice. But think of it less like a book of beautiful hymns and more like a super detailed technical manual, a real how-to guide for the priest who is in charge of actually doing the rituals.
And here's a huge clue. The text itself says Yajurveda is in prose, and that's a really big deal. While other Vedas are filled with poetic hymns, the Yajurveda is all about direct, straightforward instructions. It really is the user's guide for ancient ceremonies.
Which brings us right back to our mystery. See, the Yajurveda isn't just one book. It's split into two major versions. You've got the Krishna, or Black Yajurveda, which is kind of all jumbled together. The sacred verses, or mantras, are all mixed in with the explanations, the Brahmana. But then you have the Shukla, or White Yajurveda, which is perfectly organized. The verses are in one section, and the commentary is in a totally separate one. The big question is, why? What on earth happened to cause this kind of split?
Well, the answer, according to tradition, wasn't decided in some calm, scholarly debate. Nope, it all comes down to a fiery, explosive conflict between a teacher and his student. And this is where our story really gets going.
Okay, so let's meet our main players. On one side, we have Vaishampayana, a highly respected master of the Yajurveda, and on the other, his star pupil, Yajnavalkya. This guy was brilliant, maybe the smartest student of them all, but he also had a bit of a reputation for being proud.
So as the story goes, something happens that leads to a massive argument between them. The exact details? They're kind of lost to time. But the fallout? That is the stuff of legend. Vaishampayana, in a moment of pure rage, makes a demand that is just almost unthinkable in the sacred relationship between a guru and a disciple.
He tells Yajnavalkya to give back every single piece of knowledge he had ever taught him. Now, this wasn't just kicking him out of class. This was a command to literally erase the teaching from his student's soul. It was a complete and total spiritual rejection.
And Yajnavalkya's response to this impossible demand? Well, that's what leads directly to the birth of the first of our two Vedas.
Okay, so what happens next is straight out of a fantasy epic. In this incredible show of power, Yajnavalkya literally vomits out the Veda he has learned. But it doesn't just come out as words. It comes out as this blazing, fiery light called Tejas. Vaishampayana sees this sacred knowledge about to disappear forever, so he shouts at his other students to save it. They magically transform into teetery birds, a kind of partridge, and they swoop in to consume the radiant knowledge. This whole chaotic act of preservation is what gives this Veda its name, the Taittiriya Samhita, and it becomes our Black Yajurveda.
Now, the name Krishna, or black, isn't just because it was a messy mixture. It's also a nod to where the knowledge originally came from. Vaishampayana's own teacher, the legendary sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. So, the name itself preserves that lineage.
But what about Yajnavalkya? He's just lost everything. All his sacred learning, gone. His story, though, is far from over. In fact, this moment of total loss becomes his greatest turning point.
He's filled with regret, but he is determined. So Yajnavalkya turns to a power even greater than his own guru. He begins this period of intense spiritual practice, focusing all of his energy on praying to Surya, the sun god, who is seen as the ultimate source of light and knowledge in the cosmos.
And let me tell you, his prayers were heard. The divine response he gets is about to change Vedic history forever, giving rise to that second great tradition.
The sun god is so pleased with Yajnavalkya's devotion that he appears right before him. But not as a person. He takes the form of a magnificent, shining white horse, a Vaji. And from this divine horse flows a brand new, completely pure, and perfectly organized version of the Yajurveda.
And that is exactly how this second Veda gets its names. It's called Shukla, which means white or bright, because it came directly from the radiant sun god. And it's also known as the Vajraseniyai Samhita, because it was given by that divine Vaji, the horse. It's a pure, unmixed, crystal-clear text, the total opposite of the one he had lost.
So, at the end of the day, we're left with these two totally distinct traditions. The Krishna Yajurveda, born out of human anger and saved in a chaotic, mixed-up form. And the Shukla Yajurveda, born from divine grace and delivered with perfect clarity. Two paths, two stories, two Vedas, all from one source.
Now, this whole story is more than just an amazing myth. It tells us so much about how knowledge was valued, how fragile it is, and it actually carries a pretty serious warning for all of us today.
Get this. According to tradition, the Krishna Yajurveda, the one that started with Vaishampayana, originally had 86 different schools or versions. 86! Just imagine that incredible diversity of thought.
And this is what's left. Just 4. Social change, wars, and just the sheer passage of thousands of years have wiped out more than 95% of that tradition. The amount of knowledge that has been lost, it's just staggering.
So why should we care about this ancient story now? Because it's a powerful lesson. It shows us how knowledge was once worshipped, how it was passed down, and sometimes how tragically it was lost. It's a huge reminder of just how fragile our cultural heritage really is, and that it's on us to not just learn from the past, but to actively work to save the knowledge we're lucky enough to still have.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. This whole tale of the two Vedas is just one story that we managed to hang on to. It really makes you stop and wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible tales, what other profound pieces of wisdom are still out there, just waiting to be rediscovered in the forgotten corners of our world?